Hello and welcome to math, where today we're going to learn something probability. All right, so probability is the odds or the chance that something may happen. All right, so this could be like flipping a coin, rolling dice. It could be picking a card out of a deck. It could be anything like that, right? Some big probability things that we see in real life is like the lottery. Winning the lottery is all probability. It's the odds of getting those numbers, right? Casinos, gambling, playing card games, playing board games. Probability is everywhere we look in life. Okay, here are some three big ones that you might need to know. Might be good to memorize. All right, so the first one says a coin. So if I flip a coin, what are my chances of getting heads or tails, right? So my odds are either heads or tails. Those are my two possible outcomes. So I have two outcomes for a coin. If I wanted to get heads, I have a 1 out of 2 chance. If I roll a die, right, that's one dice, right? What's on my die? Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? There's 6 sides on a die. So how many outcomes do I have? Well, I have 6. If I wanted to roll a 2, I have a 1 in 6 chance, a 1 in 6 probability, right? The last one, deck of cards. All right, so a deck of cards, you have ace, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, right? And you have that for 4 suits. So there's 13 cards and there's 4 suits, which means that there is 52 possible outcomes. So if you wanted to get the 8 of diamonds, there's a 1 in 52 chance. So the odds of that are very small. We're going to talk about that right now. All right, so 52 possible outcomes for a deck of cards. All right, so probability is on a scale. It's on a scale from 0 to 1. All right, so if you're at 0, that means it's impossible. It's not going to happen. It cannot happen. It's impossible. All right, that's 0. That's 0 impossibility. That would be like rolling a die and getting a 7. You can't do that. That's not possible. There's no 7 on a die. It only goes 1 to 6, right? Certain is guaranteed it's going to happen. It's guaranteed it's going to happen. It's a 100% chance it's going to happen. It's definitely going to happen. All right, so that would be like flipping a coin and getting heads or tails. If I want to get heads or tails, well, those are my only 2 options. One of those is going to happen, so it's guaranteed I'm going to get heads or tails, right? In the middle is 50-50, right? So that's like 50% chance. So that would be like rolling a die and getting an even number or something like that, right? Or flipping a coin and getting tails, right? There's 1 out of 2. That's 50-50 chance, right? So that's right in the middle. Anything that's less than 50%, like 25% here, that means that it's unlikely to happen. So if it's between 0 and 50%, that means that it's unlikely to happen. That means it could happen, but the odds of it are happening are lower, right? Anything that's bigger than 50% and closer to 1 or 100% is likely to happen, right? So like this says 75%. If like the weatherman said there's a 75% chance of rain tomorrow, I would make sure I have a raincoat, right? Because that means it's pretty likely it's going to rain. It means it could not happen, but it's likely that it's going to happen, all right? So all probability is all between 0 and 1. And you can see probability, it's written as a fraction, as a decimal, and as a percent. You can see in any 3 of those forms, fraction, decimal, or percent. Okay? All right, so let's do an example together. All right, so this one it says, finding the probability. When we find the probability, we want when all possible outcomes are equally likely, the probability of an event is a ratio or a fraction of the number of favorable outcomes to the number of total outcomes. All right, so for example, you roll a number cube, and what's your probability of rolling an even number? Well, even number, we don't want a number cube or a die that it goes 1 through 6, right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 6-sided. So now we got to figure out what's our odds of rolling an even. So what are even numbers here? Well, we have 2's even, 4's even, and 6's even, right? So we have 3 even numbers out of a total of 6 possible outcomes, right? So that would be 3 over 6, which is the same thing as a half, and a half is 0.5 or 50%. Remember, it can be written as a fraction, a decimal, or a percent. So it's important to know all 3. All right, to go from a fraction to a decimal, remember we just do top divided by bottom. So 1 divided by 2 gives me 0.5. And to go from decimal to percent, we just multiply it by 100. 0.5 times 100 is 50%. Okay? All right, so let's do some examples down here. So we have a spinner here. This is a spinner. So like, let's say I had like a little arrow here. I had an arrow, and I'm going to spin it around. Woo! I want to see where it lands, right? So it says probability of getting an even number. Well, first I got to figure out how many spots I have on my spinner. Well, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have 12 possible spins, right? We have 12 ways it can land. So it can land on one of 12 things, right? So 12 is my possible outcomes, my total outcomes. So my top number is what I want to happen. Well, I want to get an even. So let's see, how many evens do I have? Let's see here, 10's even, 12's even, 8's even, 6 is even, 8 is even, 8 is even, 9 is odd, that doesn't work. 2 is even, 3 is odd, 1 is odd, 2 is even, 11's odd. All right, so how many evens do I got? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I got 8 out of 12. I can simplify this. I can reduce my fraction here. Both of these can be divided by 4. 8 can be divided by 4, that would give me 2. And 12 divided by 4 would give me 3. So it'd be 2 over 3, which is 0.6 repeating, or 66.6 repeating percent. All right? All right, so let's keep going on. Let's do the next one. All right, it says, what's the probability of getting a number that's greater than 10? Probability of getting a number that's greater than 10. All right, let's see. Well, we know that there's 12 total spaces, right? So how many are bigger than 10? Well, I see I have 11's bigger than 10 and 12's bigger than 10. Every other number is smaller than 10 or equal to 10, but it just says greater than 10. So I only have 2 out of 12. And I can simplify that because both of these are even. I can divide by 2. That's the same as 1/6. All right, so what's 1/6 as a decimal? Well, I would do 1 divided by 6, and that will give me 0.16 repeating. And that 6 is repeating. So if I did this as a percent, it would be 16.6%. Repeating percent. Okay? So 16% is a very unlikely number, right? That's pretty low probability. Where 66% means that it's pretty likely it's going to happen. It's bigger than 50%, right? Okay, so let's go on to the next one. Next one, it says we want to draw an 8. We want to spin an 8. So we got our spinner here. We want to spin an 8. So let's figure that out. Let's see what it would be. So let's see, how many 8s do I have? I have 1, 2, 3 8s. So it's going to be 3 out of 12. Well, 3 out of 12, I can simplify to make it 1/4. Now 1/4, that's a decimal I know. I know that's 0.25. And that's the same thing as 25%. All right? So to get an 8, to spin and get an 8, I'm going to have a 25% chance. So I would still say that's unlikely, right? That's less than 50%, so it's unlikely that's going to happen. All right, what's the probability of not getting an 8? So if it's a 25% chance of getting an 8, that means it's a 75% chance of getting an 8, of not getting an 8. Right? So if it's 1/4 of getting an 8, that means that it's 3/4 of not getting an 8. Because it's all going to equal up to 100, right? All percents are out of 100. So if it's 25% to get an 8, that means it's got to be 75% to not get an 8. All right, so let's do the next one. That's this one on the right here. This one has, let's say like these are gumballs in a gumball machine, right? And we want to get a red. We want to get a red gumball. What's our odds of getting a red? Well, let's look over here. Well, there's 10 total reds, right? So that's going to go on top. The bottom number is how many total gumballs there are. So we have to add up all these here. So 6 plus 14 is 20. 20 plus 10 is 30. So it'd be 10 out of 30. That's my odds of getting a red. I can simplify this 10 because these both end in 0, so I can divide by 10. So that'll give me 1/3, which is 0.3 repeating, or 33.3% repeating percent. So my odds of getting a red are 1 in 3, right? So my odds are pretty low. It's kind of unlikely that's going to happen. Doesn't mean it won't happen. It can. It's just 33% of the time it's going to happen. All right, so let's see blue. There are 6 blues. Let's say I want to get a blue gumball. So it'd be 6 out of 30, right? Both of these I can divide by 3 to simplify it. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Actually, I can divide it by 6. 6 divided by 6 is 1. Let's do that. 1/5. 30 divided by 6 is 5. So 1/5. 1/5 is 0.2, which would be 20%. And so my odds of getting a blue are smaller than my odds of getting a red. And that makes sense because look, there's less blues than there are reds, right? There's only 6 blues, 10 reds. So of course that makes sense. We want the odds of getting a blue are going to be lower. All right, so let's see yellow. If I was going to do yellow, how many yellows do I have? Well, I have 14 yellows, out of a possible 30. And I could divide this by 2 because they're both even, so that would be 7 out of 15. So 7 out of 15, what is that? 7 divided by 15 gives me 0.46. 0.46. So if I was going to change that to a percent, that would be 46.6%. That's for this one up here, this yellow. All right, so that's pretty close to being even odds, right? So even odds is 50-50 odds, so it's just below 50%, so it's still unlikely, but it's pretty close to being even odds, where it's about the same as to happen as not to happen. All right, and the last one, it says a color that is not red. A color that is not red. Let's get like a purple, so that's not red. So I can pick any color. I want any color except for reds. I really don't like those red ones. So I can pick a yellow or a blue, right? So yellow is 14, blue there's 6. So there's 20 that are not reds out of a possible 30 that are reds. Both of these can be divided by 10 because they both end in 0. So that would be 2/3, which is 0.6 repeating, or 66.6%. All right, so that means that it is likely. 66% is likely. It's bigger than 50%, so it's likely that it's going to happen. All right, so that is how we do probability. The top number is what you want to happen, right? So like this top one for red, there was 10 reds. I wanted to get a red. And the bottom number is how many total that there are. So there was a total of 30 gumballs in this thing. So my odds of getting a red are 10 out of 30, right? Sometimes you need to simplify and reduce your fraction. So some hints with that, if they're even, like on this one we did in green here on the yellow gumball, these are both even numbers, so I divided it by 2, right? So that's an easy way we can simplify it. If they end in zeros like this, if they both end in 0, that means you can divide it by 10, right? So we have to simplify our fractions. We always want our fractions in simplest form, right? And then we can also see it as a decimal, and we can also see it as a percent. All right, so that is probability. On our sheet here, there's 7 practice problems for you to do on your own. All the answers are over here on the right. So you're going to solve these. Like this first one says he has a bag of 8 pens and 3 of the pens are plastic. What's the odds that you'll get a plastic pen? Well, there's 3 plastic pens out of 8 total pens. So it'd be 3 out of 8, right? And where's that at? 3 out of 8 is E. E, so this would be E. And then you can cross off E over here. You can cross it off and say, all right, I'm not going to do that anymore. All right, so we did that first one together. Go ahead and try the other ones on your own. If you need help, you can always ask a teacher. All right. But probability, the top number is what you want to happen, and the bottom number is how many total outcomes there are. So if I was flipping a coin, I want to get heads, there's 1 head, so that would go on top, out of 2 possible choices. So heads or tails, that goes on the bottom, because that's 2 total outcomes. All right, so that's how we do probability. If you ever have any questions, please ask a teacher. I'll see you next time.